Today is May 25th, 2022. My name is Richard Perez, and I'm a Veterans Benefit Coach with the Hanford branch of Kings County Library. This interview is part of the Veterans History Project. Please state your full name.
Anthony Kim Narcisse.
Well, welcome, Mr. Narcisse.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you, and I'm glad you decided to share your story with us.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's start off with your home and family background. Where are you from?
New Orleans. I was born in Carlisle, Louisiana, which is down in the bayou. That's where things kind of started, and then my mother moved us up to the city. Her folks were originally from New Orleans, but they moved down to the bayou because of financial reasons, because the family was really big and your money could go far in the bayou. So it started there. I was born in the bayou, and then after they got everything settled and financially we were able to get on our feet, then my mother moved us up to the city.
All right.
So I stayed in the city, and I probably moved up there when I was maybe 4 years old, maybe 5, and I got a mixed accent between city and bayou.
In the bayou.
Yeah, you could hear it in my voice there.
Oh, I love that food, though. Then.
Yeah, the other food's great.
Oh, yeah, those French beignets and that chicken coffee. I still remember that.
Yeah.
So are your parents still with us?
My mother is. My father passed away about before COVID,
Okay.
around that time.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that. Our
Yeah.
condolences. So what did they do for a living?
Well, my mother, she worked for New Orleans Health Department.
Oh, okay.
She was their head clerk of all records and everything associated with people's health, and if anyone had any sexual diseases or any problems like that, because you had to control that stuff, make sure stuff didn't spread. So she was part of all of that, all the paperwork behind the administration. She was the head of that administration. And my father, he was a rig driver, big truck driver. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
He was
Yeah.
all over the place. They were divorced though when I was young. They
Right.
divorced when I was around 7.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I wasn't that close to him after that. I saw him a few times, visited him a few times, but we wasn't close. He
Okay.
was one of those bayou guys that didn't talk a lot.
Right.
To talk a lot for him was, that was a lot for him. That's kind of how it is.
Okay.
Old school.
Old school, just silent type.
Yeah.
But he gets his message across.
Right, yeah. He provided. He was a good provider.
There you go.
Yeah.
So do you have any siblings, any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, yes, I have a brother and a sister, younger.
Okay.
My sister's the youngest. She's
Okay.
still with us. My brother, he died.
Oh, I'm sorry to
He
hear that.
passed away. Yeah.
And did any of them serve besides you?
No.
Okay.
No, none of those, sir. The only one.
So what did you do before you enlisted into the military?
Just went to school. I was in ROTC. Enjoyed that. That kind of got my introduction to the military, discipline, marching, that sort of thing. Feeling a sense of pride wearing
Right.
uniform and stuff like that. That's different from everyone else what they walked around wearing at the school. So you kind of stood out wearing that. So
Right.
you took some pride in how you looked because it was different. So having that experience, and before that, the Boy Scouts. Basically, all my life it was some type of service. I was in
Right.
Boy Scouts, and then I was in ROTC, and
Oh,
then
wow.
went into the military at 17 years old.
All right.
So that's kind of how it was.
You were pretty active.
Yeah, no teen jobs or anything. I didn't work at McDonald's or anything like that. I just
Okay.
went to school and participated in different things like that. Played a little basketball, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was kind of like that.
All righty. Well, let's go ahead and just talk about your early days of service. Now you're getting ready to enlist. So what military branch of service did you serve in?
Marine Corps.
All right, simplify.
Yeah.
So obviously you were volunteer enlisted? Did you enlist
Yes,
into?
yes, volunteer enlisted. At first I went in reserve.
Oh, did you?
I went in reserve, and I was supposed to be in the air wing, doing something with aircraft, but my score allowed for that. So I was supposed to be working with aircrafts. And then talking to my mother, she said, you know what, I think you ought to go in active. Just give it a shot, go in active, rather than just do reserve, do active, and stay in for a while. I said, I don't know, and I muddled over for a while, and a few months went by, and then I decided, well, okay, I'll put in for active. So I went to the recruiter and said, I want to change my designation to active. So he changed it, but unbeknownst to me, he didn't transfer that MOS over to
the active duty.
So I thought I still was in an MOS where I was working with aircraft. So after boot camp, and that was announced where everyone was going, they had me open. So that's how I ended up in the infantry.
Oh, Okay.
Yeah, I
So
was,
what year was that when you were?
83.
1983.
Yeah, I was very upset with that when I found out. I argued with the drill instructor. No. And he was like, I'm tired of these recruiters. You know, that kind of yeah.
My recruiter done lied to me. So what inspired your choice for the USMC?
Say again?
What inspired your choice to select the Marine Corps?
Well, the uniform for one, when I went into the recruiting station, you know, you have all of them there, and I looked around, I wasn't going Navy, I didn't like that, no, I didn't want to do the Popeye thing, and Air Force, that was kind of foreign, no, that's foreign to me, and you know, so the Marine Corps kind of gravitated toward that. There was a Coast Guard one there too, but I knew a guy that worked in the Coast Guard. He lived above me in another apartment, and I didn't really see much going on there. You know, I didn't see much of a change in him, so that's why I didn't go to there. It's funny how people that have been in the service set an example for others that want to go into it.
There you go.
He didn't set the example I thought I should follow, so I ended up with the Marine Corps. Besides, the Marine Corps guy said, no, what are you going to do for me? Kind of thing. You know? It's like, well, what are you going to do for me? He said, no. What are you going to do for me? So I was like, yeah, I got to get with this. I did give the Army a try first. Backing up, I did give the Army a try first. They never called me. I went down there, turned my name in, everything. Because I was in ROTC with the Army.
Oh, okay.
And so I went to them to give them a shot, and they didn't call me. So then the Marine guy called me. So that's what I went with.
There you go.
I made that choice easy.
Well, it was a great choice.
Yeah.
And so how was your basic training? So now you're in the Marine Corps and you're sent off to boot camp. So how was boot camp?
It was tough, you know. It was tough in terms of, you know, having to be very disciplined. You know, you couldn't be, you know, laughing and chuckling and fooling around. You know, it was all about business. I mean, you had to do everything quickly.
Yes.
Showers in, you know, like less than 5 minutes, that sort of thing. Everyone in there, less than 5 minutes, you're showering. They've never seen anything like that. And, you know, having to get up at a certain time, hurry to make you bump, that sort of time. He's counting, you know. He does something that would take, you know, 3 minutes. He's counting 10 seconds, you know, that sort of stuff. And I did see one get taken care of that wasn't quite, you know, making it. It was causing everyone problems. And they would go to his bunk at night and say, we're going to get you, you know. Because within our own little group, we had people that keep others in check. And within our own little group, you know. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on to make sure everybody doesn't have to pay the price, not necessarily. You know, so it was something, ironing your uniform at night, you know, it's past midnight, you're up ironing your uniform to get it ready for a special inspection the next morning, you know. It was an unwritten thing. You know, the drill instructor said, it's time to go to bed, you know, but he knew that during the night we were like little elves trying to get some stuff done that didn't get done during the day to get ready for our special inspections by officers that were coming in from higher up to check us out. And I remember one time I got ready and it was at night and my uniform had a little dirt on it, so I took a little whisk, you know, cleaner and was wiping on it to get this little stain off of it and thought everything was good. Used water, rinsed it off and everything, ironed it dry, and it thought it was good to go. And that whisk was blue and it showed up in the sunlight.
Oh, man.
You know? So there's little things like that that happen because you're doing stuff in the dark. You know, you're trying to do
dark, dirty.
in the dark, you know. But so stuff like that goes on. But one thing in particular, a drill instructor from another platoon used to come over and grab me. We're all sitting down on the quarter deck with our legs crossed, and the drill instructor's giving us instructions and everything. He'd come from another platoon and he'd look at me, point to me, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what do you mean, sir? He said, what's wrong with your eyes? He didn't like my eyes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he got me and brought me into the head and put me in front of a mirror. He stood behind me and he said, why do you have those eyes? Why do you have those eyes? He hated me for my eyes. He hated me for my eyes. And so that used to go on periodically. My drill instructor allowed that.
So
that was
something that you won't ever forget.
Oh yeah, you know, forget something. You get singled out for anything, you never forget that. Yeah,
I hear you.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
So now you're in your basic training and you're getting integrated. And how was that adjustment into that military?
It was a too bad.
training
Just
stuff.
considering I had some ROTC background and I wasn't a knucklehead running around on the streets when I was a kid. You know, I pretty much regimented myself. I was pretty regimented already in my studies and stuff. You know, I got all kind of awards in school for academics and all that. So I stayed together at school. I studied and stuff like that. That's most of the time. I did all the right things you're supposed to do.
So the adjustment wasn't that hard.
Right, it wasn't that hard, no.
Yeah, you just knew that you were going to go through some things, you know,
Right.
the initial shock and kind of get you built up and to be a Marine, you know, so you got to be ready, fit to fight every day and night, right?
That's true. I mean, after a while, when the instructor's yelling, you're laughing. You're just trying not to laugh, you know. It's the hardest thing, you try not to laugh, you know. But you'll see a guy across from you in front of his bunk, he's laughing and doing all kind of crazy stuff with his face or whatever, then he's straight back up, you know. And you just gotta laugh, you know. But I got caught a couple of times.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you were pushing all the way.
Paid the price.
Oh yeah, you were a push-up individual, I'm sure.
But it was fun. It was fun. The hardest part to adjust to, I think, is the hierarchy that went on within the platoon, just the guys.
Within the basic training crew.
Right. Within just the
training.
The cadets, just the cadets, not the higher, not the drill instructors themselves. That was pretty standard. Right. But everybody below that, like your squad leaders, your guys, all those guys that were designated, that little push-pull went on. You know, for pecking order. That was the only hard part to adjust to as far as that part.
Yeah, because if it's peer to peer and you know, and you have your peer that's now he's the squad leader or the other peer is the platoon sergeant. Right. And you know, and then you say like, man, you just don't know.
Right. That kind of thing.
I hear you. Yeah. So now you graduated from basic training and you're in your training and all that, and you get that opportunity to take leave. So what did you do on leave? What did you go after?
It was only 10 days. I went home to Louisiana, to New Orleans. Yeah, I went home for 10 days there.
Family's happy to see you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they didn't recognize you, huh?
It took a while before I wasn't standing at parade rest and stuff like that and talking like that, you know. But you get back into the groove, but not too far because you know you got to go back. Exactly. So, you know, I tried to keep myself in check, you know, not to get too relaxed.
Right. Get to enjoy a little bit of home cooking?
That. And, you know, different other activities that go on in New Orleans. There's a lot to do.
Oh, yes.
So I had a good time. Plus, I had a little money in my pocket to do some of the things. So
that's good. So, did you do any type of special training while you were any additional training during or after basic training or school training or?
Well, we went to after boot camp. During boot camp, you go through some infantry training. Okay. You go to Camp Pendleton because you know we went into MCRD San Diego is where we went to boot camp. Okay. That's where it was headquartered, but we went also to Camp Pendleton and did a little bit of infantry training. Everybody did, regardless of your military occupational specialty. But after boot camp, of course, you went to the school for your specialty, and mine was infantry. And where'd you go to school there? Went to Camp Pendleton. Camp Pendleton. Yeah, went to Camp Pendleton to the School of Infantry. But I didn't go to infantry after that. Oh, wow. So where did you go? I went to C school. Okay. While in the infantry school, some C school recruits came down to talk to us, and they were looking for anyone 6 foot and taller. And I was, of course, 6 foot. And they said, hey, you know, you can go and serve on a ship. As soon as I heard ship, I said, nope, I am not a sailor. I'm a Marine. I'm not going on a ship. Nope, not happening. And so I refused them. And they asked me a couple of more times, and I refused them. They lined us all against the wall like they're going to shoot us all. And said, anyone not want to go to sea school? And most of us left the wall. You know, they had a couple of guys and the rest of us left the wall. We wasn't going to serve on a ship with sailors. That wasn't going to happen. And then my platoon sergeant, the one that my head trainer, he came to my bunk at night and woke me up. And he said, get dressed, come in my office. So I went in there and talked to him. He said, sit down. See this infantry thing? See this? You know, beating the bush, all this stuff? You can always come back to this. Always. This is not going anywhere. But see that sea duty thing, that's a unique opportunity that if you pass that by, you may regret it. He says, I've been in infantry my whole time. I've never gone to any other specialty. I've stayed right here in infantry. And I can tell you right now from experience, you want to try something new. So try this thing because you always come back to this. And so after he had that little talk with me, I agreed to go to see you.
All right on. That's good. And now that you look back.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
That's a good thing.
It was a good thing. I got promoted quick.
There you go.
I got promoted really quick. Yeah.
There you go. So now you completed the sea training and getting ready to go to your first assignment. So where were you stationed at your first time?
USS Carl Vinson, CVN 70 in Alameda.
Okay.
Yeah, and at first it was stationed, we thought I was going to get on it on the East Coast because it was in Virginia at 1st but it got restationed to Alameda, and it became nicknamed San Francisco's own, and that's where it was. So I was surprised that I wasn't going to Virginia, ended up going to Alameda.
Well, I'll be darned.
Yeah, because they all asked us where we wanted to go, and I knew the ship was in Virginia, so that's what I signed up for. And by the time I got out of sea school and everything and was going to my next duty station, they said Alameda. Well, I didn't know where that was. I had no idea what was going on. And I'll tell you what, when I came up to the pier at that time, it was the largest man-made moving object on the planet.
Oh,
was
wow.
that ship. And when I saw it, I said, I'm supposed to protect this? That thing was huge, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Marine detachment, yeah.
And how long were you there?
2 years, from December 83 to December 85.
And then where'd you go next?
I went to Camp Pendleton.
And how long did you stay down there in Camp Pendleton?
I stayed for one deployment, so probably about a year, maybe less. And I ended up in State Platoon. Never heard of it before. I got over there, and when you first check into an infantry unit and you go to where records are kept, first sergeants and sergeant majors are heading down there because they want to see who's coming in, the new batch of folks coming in. And they start picking on you and asking you questions, you know, almost accosting you, you know, like, who are you, where you come from, you know, that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So we're standing there and he's like, hey, look, give me your record. He's looking at it, he says, oh, meritorious promoted to corporal, okay. All right, you're going to State Platoon. State Platoon? What is that, you know? Headquarters of service, what? Headquarters of service coming in? What am I doing at headquarters, you know?
Right.
Yeah. State Platoon, which is surveillance and target acquisition.
Oh.
Yeah, that platoon. And so your job was surveillance, call for fire, target acquisition, snipers, all of that stuff was all encompassed in that platoon.
Oh, that.
So it was almost like a little mini recon.
Right.
And that was a new thing they started. They started with every battalion having a platoon, a state platoon, so that way they have their own little recon folks and special operations folks within their battalion, not having to wait for, you know, recon to come from another place.
Okay.
So we already had some folks in place.
Well,
So that's pretty good.
Ah, that sounds really good.
Yeah, so it was something kind of groundbreaking that I was a part of.
Yeah,
and they had a few movies out there that were, that kind of reflected State Platoon. There had a few Marine movies that went on, and that was pretty good. Because I was like, hey, I was that guy. State Platoon, I was that guy, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I noticed you had mentioned earlier deployments. So now we're talking deployments and wartime experience. So what year or years did you deploy?
Well, my first deployment was when I went to State Platoon. We went to Okinawa.
Okay.
No war time or anything
Okay.
at that point. But during that time, you know, there was a lot of specialty training we went into, call for fire, 9 line for call for fixed wing and helicopters, all that, fire from them. And so, you know, you become your forward observer. So that was pretty good. And we ended up at Mount Fuji. And Mount Fuji, there's a camp at Mount Fuji, and that was very unique because you're right down at the base of in Japan, Mount Fuji. So that's the first time I've ever been there.
Oh,
so that was
man.
pretty cool. We stayed the rest of our time there, and then after that we go back to Okinawa. So it's kind of like that.
And Okinawa was your base location?
That was the base location. That was 9th Marine Regiment.
Okay.
That was 9th. We were 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines, but we were the bastard battalion because we were reinforcing 5th Marines.
Okay.
They split all the 9th Marine Regiment up because of The Walking Dead 1-9, when they all got blasted in Vietnam. That whole battalion got blasted. And so they split us all up symbolically. They split us all up, and we're all attached to different other battalions.
Oh.
You know, or regiments, I'm sorry. We're attached to other regiments. So I was attached to 5th Marine Regiment as 2-9. And you had like 19 attached to Horno, which is 7th Marines, you know. So it was all like that. So our home regiment was in Okinawa. That was 9th Marine Regiment. So if anyone goes to Okinawa, they're part of 9th Marine Regiment. So they're always happy to get one of theirs home, you know, so it was kind of symbolic. But later on, 2-9 became 2-4. I was kind of disappointed about that. You know, when your unit's 2-9, you have the T-shirt, you know, everything in your car carrying 2-9, Bastard Battalion, you know, we're called the Bastard Battalion. But when that happens, you know, it redesignated. They don't understand just how demeaning that is, just how the morale just goes down. Like, what? We're now just going to call ourselves 2-4, you know. And 4th Marine Regiment was on the East Coast. So we go figure.
So following this service, this tour, where did you go next?
I wanted to go to sea duty again.
Okay.
And so I asked the career planner. I said, I'd like to go back to sea duty. He said, no, you've already done that. You know, you're not going back. I said, no, it's my career, and I decided I want to go back to sea duty. That's what I want to do. You know? He says, look, I'll tell you what. He said, you do a year in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, I'll allow you to go on sea duty. I said, okay. And he's like, what? I said, yeah. I'll go to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba for a year, and then I go to... He says, you know what? Let me call you back. So about maybe half an hour or so, he calls me back, and he talked about this thing called Marine Corps Security Forces Battalion. I said, what is that? He says, it's like barracks duty, but not. It's a little more than barracks duty, but it's kind of like barracks duty. Do you want that? I said, I'm not sure. I mean, you know, I know what sea duty is, but I don't know what barracks duty is. He says, you might want to give it a shot. And so I said, I'll call you back. And I tried to research it, but no one knew what it was. No one knew what it was. I asked everybody, they didn't know. So I decided, you know what? I'll try it. So never regretted that decision. Yeah. Oh, wow. So I ended up in Marine Corps Security Forces Battalion in Vallejo, California. In Vallejo? Yeah, Mare Island, yeah. Mare Island was a naval shipyard. I ended up there.
And how long did you serve there?
For about 4 or 5 years, from like 87, early 87 to maybe late 1990, maybe 91, somewhere in there. And that was a very unique situation because I became an instructor. It was very enriching. It opened my mind up to a whole lot of things because I became an instructor. They sent me to a school in Camp Pendleton to learn how to be an instructor, to instruct others. Okay. And also I went to Smith & Wesson Academy because the Marine Corps Security Forces Battalion, it trains folks that are in the fleet anti-terrorism security teams so that they have all the tools necessary to combat terrorism. So you taught them weapons skills, you taught them about terrorism, how to identify terrorism, how to react to terrorism. You taught them all kinds of things having to do with that, and as well as unarmed self-defense. You know, so I went to school for all of these things. So it was very unique. I went to, besides Smith & Wesson Academy, for weapons, I also went to a place called Gunsight Academy, which is in Paulden, Arizona, for both pistol and shotgun combat for that. And then went to terrorism school for, you know, anti-terrorism means. And so it was pretty good. I got to learn a lot of stuff and to train a lot of people during that time I was there. So it was very interesting. Yeah,
it sounded very interesting. And you continue to build your skills and your experience.
And I ended up on a mobile training team, which meant that you're mobile now with all of that training. You brought everything with you, even a shooting trailer, where you can go in a trailer and shoot. All of that stuff, live fire. You traveled around as that. And so that was a unique thing. Went all the way to Japan, because you went to the naval bases to train them, and then you went to Japan and trained over there too. The Navy over there. I ended up at Camp Atsuki over there. So it was pretty good.
So that's around 1990. So during that time frame, we were probably getting ready close to going to a combat operations or war. And what year did you deploy?
Well, yeah, I got pulled into Desert Shield.
Okay.
Yeah, they decided that they were going to use some fast teams to shore up Desert Shield. After I'd done all the training and everything, there came a time where they said, hey, you've done all you need to do here. We're going to put you now in Fast Company. And Fast Company was where all the fast teams were. Again, fleet anti-terrorism security teams. So I ended up there. And then shortly thereafter, that the Desert Shield thing came up, and
Okay.
he volunteered us to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all went. We went. I can't tell you how we got on the maritime preposition ships because the country we went through was supposed to be neutral.
Okay.
So we went through that country, and as we were riding through that country, they all had us in these big military trucks with all of the flaps down, so we couldn't look. But of course, I peeked out, to see where we were. And we ended up at that ship. Everything happened that night, very hush hush. Everything happened that night, and we ended up on a maritime preposition ship, which I'd never been on, didn't know anything about them. But let me tell you, very nice accommodations, very nice ship, very well air conditioned. And the cooks on board will cook you anything you want. That was great. I mean, it was fantastic. I really enjoyed myself on that. Getting a ride from those guys from there all the way to where we were going for Desert Shield to be established.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoyed that.
And then from Desert Shield, did you transition into Desert Storm?
No. After some time with Desert Shield, our mission with the maritime preposition ships was coming to a close because our mission was to be part of securing the rear areas to get ready for following missions. And what happened was they said, well, look, you can send some of your guys back from Fast Company because we pretty much got what we needed, So they put us on the plane, and unbeknownst to me, General Schwarzkopf and other people had landed after that and said no one else was leaving. And so we were the last ones to ever be allowed to leave before Desert Storm. So it was like, wow, really? So it was kind of like that. Right. But I tell you, in that desert, the heat went up to 130 degrees. We were in Spain, and I believe we went to Spain and Germany on our transition flying going to where we're going next to get back to the States. We were wearing our jackets, and it was summer. We were wearing our jackets. We were cold. And it was like 90 degrees outside. We were cold. We were wearing our jackets.
Coming from 130 to 90.
Yeah. So everywhere was cold. Change. Everywhere was cold.
So on that experience, anything you would like to, any stresses that gave you, or anything that you experienced during that time of Desert Shield and in preparation? Because obviously we know Desert Shield was initial build-up to, which was going to be the preamble to the Desert Storm.
Right.
So.
We got to do a few patrols, which that was kind of unique. We got to do some patrols out into the desert. And there were abodes out there, that were built up. You could tell it was for workers. It was like a Quonset hut-looking situation. And you go in there, there's a bunch of bunks, so you could tell it was for workers or whatever. And we used to wonder what goes on here, but of course, it was abandoned, but recently abandoned. And so we did patrols out there. There was really not too much to see. We came back. Our biggest worry was biological or chemical attack. So we did a lot of drills with gas masks and so forth, locking things down, checking people to make sure their weapons wasn't loaded when they were coming on our ships, that sort of thing. Making sure we inspect for anybody that may be trying to approach the ship from water, that sort of thing. And I was worried. I said, you know what? I said, this is going to be the big one. I mean, we're talking Army on Army. Right. And I was there, so we're like, hey, we're going to get right into the next thing.
Yes.
So that was my thinking. I had no thoughts that we were leaving, that there was any chance to leave and go back home. So that was a huge surprise. So yeah.
So how did that impact your life? How would you say that?
And let me know, hey, that was a close shave. I could have been in it, but that's the thing about the Marine Corps or any service that you join. When you first sign the papers, you may be naive to what that really means when you sign, especially as a 17-year-old kid. But after you've been in, and certainly after you've been exposed to the possibility of going to some kind of war where you may not come out with all your limbs, you rethink and say, hey, you know what? There's a deeper process here, and that I have to look at before I sign that paper next time. So anyone signing a paper after their first enlistment, they sign up for a second one. No, you know what you're doing by that time. There's no excuse. You know what you're doing, and anything can happen. And it's a matter of being willing. People say, you know what, you're no better than me. I said, no, I'm no better than you. It's just that I was willing, and you wasn't. I was willing. It comes down to that. So that's what it is. You know, I was willing to put my life on the line for my country. I was willing to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And through the military service, you established battle buddies, friendship. How was your friendship with your battle buddies?
Oh yeah, I had a lot of friendships formed there. Yeah, a lot of nothing that went on after really. There was maybe a couple of guys, that kind of linger a little bit, but not really. But I was associated with a lot of folks, and we had a lot of fun. I mean, that was great. But I was always advocating for a position where I was in charge of something. If you're not doing that, then what are you doing? You serve in the service, you're trying to move up, get more responsibility. They say your reward in the military for being in as long as you are is being given added responsibility. That's a reward. Right. So that was the mentality. So you're looking for more rewards, and means moving up to where you're in a position of authority to make changes and do things the way you think they ought to be done from the examples you've had as you've come through. So I thought that was great. But if you're not doing that, a lot of guys got out. You can tell the ones that weren't going to be around too long because they didn't have that mentality.
Okay. So you're leaving theater, leaving Desert Shield. Were you guys awarded any citations, awards for your service out there?
Yes, we ended up with the Iraq campaign ribbon or something like that, medal. Okay. The one that looked like the oil is pouring down.
Oh, yes.
Green, white, and red, and the oils. We ended up with that one.
Okay.
For that. But other than that, no, I can't think of anything. No. Our mission there wasn't long. It was, it was something that was a support mission.
All
so,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Now, the guys that actually went in, that remained, now they got some other medals when they came home.
So while you were there serving with the local population, how did they view you guys? How did they treat you all?
Oh, it was great. You get there, you were like a star. We were riding on the buses coming in, people were cheering and all of that. That was great, And I said, do they know we didn't go to Desert Storm?
That's all right, though.
They're cheering and everything, and they were glad to see us. It was great.
So your return home was very welcoming.
Oh yeah.
And so where were you when when Desert Storm ended?
Let's see. I went back to Camp Pendleton. Let's see. We did another deployment. We ended up going to Somalia.
Okay.
Going to Somalia.
All right.
And the unique thing about going to Somalia is they still had us wearing desert camis because they wanted to use the momentum from Desert Storm to Somalia. So I guess to instill fear, hey, it was the same guys that was in the desert. Hey, when you come over there. The only thing wrong with it logistically was everything was green. So at night we stood out without desert camis on. So we covered them with mud, stuff like that to try to blend in a little bit, but that's still not green.
Right.
And so when you walked around, you stood out like a light bulb. But
how long were you there in Somalia?
I want to say maybe 3 to 4 months maybe.
Okay.
And during that time, I did multiple patrols. I volunteered for the first patrol. The first sergeant was starting to talk to all the sergeants and everything about the mission, and he said, "Well, we need some volunteers," and I raised my hand right away. I was like that, raised my hand right away. And he says, "You don't know what it is yet." Still kept my hand up. He says, "We need someone to volunteer for the first night patrol." Still have my hand up. So I went on the first night patrol. Then the next day comes around, same thing, raised my hand, around for the next patrol. And so I kept doing that. And then after a while I said, "Put your hand down, I'm getting tired of you volunteering. No, you're not going anywhere." So at first my squad was getting upset because they were always going out. And I said, "I volunteered just to go out." "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Shut up, you know how it works. We're in Somalia now,
Right.
None of this back talk,
Right.
So we went out there for those first few patrols, and we scooped up a lot of weapons because we were the first ones out there. So we come back loaded down with a bunch of weapons we confiscated from houses and everything else, And after a while, the kids were drawing pictures of a weapon on the side of a building, letting us know where they were.
Oh, wow.
So that was some intel I thought wasn't a big thing. I thought everyone knew that until one of the colonels or whatever heard me talking about it. He said, "Come here, Marine, what are you talking about?" And so then the word got out. I thought everyone knew it, so I didn't really
But that was
worry about
good.
it.
You had a big influence in the local populace, and they were assisting. They were letting you know, hey, the Marines are here to keep us secure and safe.
Right.
And that's good. That was a good collaboration between the U.S. Marines and the local population.
Yeah. And the Army was there too, you know. But
Yeah, it was a joint
what
operation.
happened? Our mission basically was to get a foothold there and then start taking the air strips, and then the Army would follow us and take over as we keep advancing. It was kind of like that. But we spent the bulk of our time in an area called Baidoa. We spent most of our time there, established, setting up, like defenses and stuff like that, and patrols. But our patrols wasn't such that they were necessary to go out and to fight. It was basically just to patrol the area to see where there were any threats in the area. So you're going room to room, house to house. That's a very dangerous proposition. But we had no breaching tools. So how do we bust these doors down? We're kicking at them. We're using our weapon, the butt of our weapon, to hit the lock area to try to open it. But you know what happens every time you use that kind of force with your butt of your weapon against the door? The round chambers and ejects every time. So boom, boom. So you couldn't have that going on, and you wasn't going to remove your magazine.
Exactly.
You wasn't going to do that either. Anything could happen.
Because you never know what's behind the door.
Yeah, we didn't have the tools you really need to breach these doors and everything. So you just kind of doing the best you can. We had two guys kicking on it. One guy kicked the door and his foot went through the door. Because the door wasn't of any kind of good construction, his leg went through the door. So now we're all excited because we don't know what's on the other side. So things like that happen that you don't think about. And then we didn't have night vision equipment at first. So at night we go looking in the building, and we look like it's empty and we keep moving. Well, when we got the night vision goggles, not only were there people in the building, but there was a candle lit in there too. That's how dark Somalia would get. It's a kind of dark that I'd never seen before.
Right.
So with those night vision goggles, huge difference. Then you could see if someone was in a building.
Yeah, nighttime became daytime.
Yeah. So that was a big thing for us. The Marines were always the last to get stuff. We'll get stuff if there's enough left over from another service, like maybe the Army has some left over, they'll give us some. But other than that, we kind of do everything with less.
So your service was done in Somalia, and you came back to your home duty station, and where was that at?
It was Camp Pendleton.
And then did you finish your career at Camp Pendleton?
Yes. Yeah, we were finished there.
So, obviously, did you serve to retire?
Yes.
At East Marine Corps? And what year did you retire?
2003.
And so after retirement, and now post-military retirement, did you continue your education or anything?
Yes, I did. I actually was continuing my education when I was at Mare Island, when I was in Vallejo.
Okay.
I got back into the college mode. I said, okay, I'm not in the infantry now where I have all these other commitments. So I took that time to go back to school. And I liked it again. And so when I retired, I also continued. I also had it on, I'll take that back, I also had it on sea duty. When I was on the USS Carl Vinson, we had it also there. And so for the time I was there, I took courses there. And then when I got to Mare Island with Marine Corps Security Forces, I took courses there. And then, of course, when I retired, I continued to take courses.
Did you utilize your Montgomery GI Bill?
No, I didn't. I had the VEEP.
Yeah, the VEEP at the time you.
And then what happened, foolishly enough, my car got totaled because I was into buying cars now, and my car got totaled, and I didn't have any money to repair it. But you were able to take at that time money out of your VEEP if you needed it, and I took it out of the VEEP to get the car repaired, and I could have continued with the VEEP, but I didn't. I said, let it go. And like I said, I just kind of continued my education because it was still free if you're in the service to get
tuition assistance.
Yeah, it was still free. And then when I got out, I still was able to get some kind of tuition assistance, not the GI Bill or VEEP or anything, but there were other programs, and I was still able to get assistance. So there's no excuse not to go to school. It really is. And I finished I got 2 associates out of deal. And I was going to go back for my bachelor's, but you know what, this COVID thing made that where, you know what, no, we're going to wait. I do have a few courses towards my bachelor's, but I'm like, with this COVID thing, And I'm not too keen on distance learning.
Right.
You know, I don't like
More of an in-person in class.
Right. I did well, don't get me wrong, but I would rather be in the classroom. I'm the kind of person that'll keep the teacher after the class, and I still have questions, and won't let the teacher go until I fully understand what you mean by that. And I always sit at the front of the class. Always.
So after your retirement, you still stay in contact with any battle buddies you've made throughout the military?
One or two. Yes, I do.
Okay.
One or two. Yeah.
Well, that's good. It's important.
Yeah.
And so now let's talk about, you know, the end of your career, and you retired post-military. And I mean, do you attend any reunions or involved with any military organizations or ceremonies?
Well, when towards the end of my career, I was supposed to be going to Tajikistan.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened before that was, you know, because 9/11 happened.
Yes.
So a bunch of us buddies got together, a bunch of us gunnies got together and said, hey, let's turn our retirement papers in. Oh, okay, but we were all about the same time. And so that day came when we were supposed to turn them in, and I went around to them, hey guys, you got your stuff ready? We're going down there?
Mm-hmm.
And they had every excuse for not going down there. And I went down there and I turned in my papers. Well, we were supposed to be going to Tajikistan, so all the stuff was on the trucks ready to go and everything. And then they deferred those orders to another unit and told us we got some different orders coming.
Mm-hmm.
So in the interim, my retirement papers came in.
Oh.
And instead of going to Iraq by way of Kuwait like we were going, like I was supposed to, my retirement papers came in, I delivered them. Then they said, take your stuff off the truck. So I took my stuff off the truck, and so I ended up not going. But I had to stay behind as the family ombudsman. They used to call that the battalion dad, where you take care of all the people left behind and the rear people left behind that couldn't go because of injuries or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And they would bring up people from like the reserve, like we had like a reserve colonel that was in charge of the battalion of people we used to call sick, lame, and crazy. That's kind of the nickname we give them. People that are sick or something, they're lame or something wrong with them in their head, whatever the case may be. So we used to call it the sick, lame, and crazy battalion. And so I was in charge of that, and also any kind of advocacy for the dependents left behind.
Okay. So how was your military service affected your life, and what life lessons or observations did you gather?
Well, after I retired, I went on terminal leave as we customarily do.
Yes.
So probably about, I don't know, 60 to 90 days before my actual retirement date, I got out. And my wife told me, she said, hey, just collect some unemployment for a while and relax. So I said, no, not my thing. So I went straight into working. Got a security job for a little while, working at Sun-Made Raisins. That was unique. I didn't know that was the only Sun-Made Raisins plant here in Kingsburg, but that was pretty cool. So I did that for a little while, for about maybe 8 months. And but I had put in my my application to go to Kings County Sheriff's Department, and I got accepted. Matter of fact, I got accepted 2 places. I got accepted at Kings County and Tulare County at the same time.
Oh.
So I went to Kings County because it was closer. It was only like 3 miles from my house as the crow flies. So I took that one, and so I joined the Kings County Sheriff's Department. And I did that for 14 plus years, and I was able to retire out of that because of my age. So that worked out pretty well. And I learned a lot from that. Everything I learned from the military, I was able to bring that same discipline and the same hunger and the same motivation to the Sheriff's Department. And I was able to do that same thing. And I retired as a sergeant out of there. So that was pretty
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a big achievement.
Yeah, I thought that was great. But you know what? After I retired, they came up with lieutenant. They didn't have lieutenant at first. Sergeant to commander. Then they came up with lieutenant. So I was like, you have got to be kidding me. and the people that ended up with lieutenant when it first came out, there were people that were already way up there, like a second commander, ended up a lieutenant kind of thing, and that was it. Well, no, they had like 3 other lieutenant appointments after that, after I retired. So that was something. Yeah, it wasn't the reason I retired, but it was part of the reason. You go into sergeant, now what kind of thing, you know. Waiting for someone to retire commander might take 10 years. You know? So it was like, well, you have nowhere to go really, you know. And I'm always an up or out kind of person.
Right, continue moving forward, and
Yeah.
you saw that there was a point where It was going to take a while, so you made that decision to go ahead and submit your retirement.
Exactly.
Well, Mr. Narcisse, I mean, it sounds like, with your whole experience with the U.S. Marine Corps and military, and as you said, how those skills and that experience help you in your transition to going into the, civilian workforce as a sheriff, and that was a great experience. So, one thing I want to kind of close out with is, future generations will see this interview. What would you like them to know?
I'd like them to know that the Marine Corps was a great institution. I think everyone should serve their country. There are some countries there where everyone has to serve for a year or 2 years as just, part of the process of growing up and being part of your country and showing your support for your country. It's a unique experience, and it tells you don't have a lot to complain about. Plus, when you go to another country and you see how things are, you know how great we have it here. We have our problems, and we have more problems today than I've ever seen. Selfish, people are very selfish and not putting country first kind of thing, so that everyone can get along. Unfortunately, you have to sacrifice a little bit of your freedom so that everybody gets an opportunity to be free. You can't all have it your way. It's just not the way it is. I mean, growing up as a child in a home, that. Yeah, you're free, but you give up a little bit of your freedom so everyone can share. And that's just the way it is. With a lot of selfishness going on today. Being in the military takes that out of you. You're not selfish when you go in the Marine Corps. I mean, the service, any service, you're not a selfish person when you go in there, because everyone has to share and everyone sees how it directly affects someone if you make a mistake or you do something selfish, what can happen. So you see it real time.
Yes.
Whereas when you talk about globally or country-wise, you don't really see it. You're part of the rice bowl's doing well, so forget everyone else. But once you get into the Marines or any kind of service, you see, hey, there's no selfish in this. We all help each other out. You don't leave a man, fall on his own sword. You don't leave him behind. There's a bunch of things about being in the service that teach you that. And you can't get that from books or playing video games. You can't get that from playing Call of Duty. Actually be part of the call for duty and do it, then you'll see what it's really all about, and you'll learn something about yourself. That's the big thing. You'll learn that your weaknesses, you thought you didn't have any, you find out right away what your weaknesses are, and you find out a way to turn those weaknesses into a strength. And you never be weak again because of that, because you admit to yourself what you're weak in, and you fix it to make it a strength. And I learned a lot about that. I never hide. Hiding is a bad idea. When you're in the service, you can't hide. Right. They're going to find out if there's a weakness. Yes. But out here in the world, you can hide. There's a whole kind of ways to hide. Mm-hmm. And if you're one of those that are hiding, that's the wrong idea. You'll never grow if you hide. So that's what I would like people to take from that.
Well, that's great, Mr. Narcisse. Before we close out, is there anything else you would like to add?
I can say that I got passed over a couple of times for promotion, and I was very disheartened by that. The first time it happened when I was serving here at NAS Lemoore. Got passed over for gunnery sergeant, and at that time I almost joined the Army. Almost. I was like, what is going on here? Did I get promoted? My record's good. So I enlisted one more time. I said, I'll give it another shot. I got passed over again when I was at the School of Infantry. And when I was there, I went to the Sergeant Major and I said, why did I get promoted to gunny? This is the second time. What's going on? I'm not a delinquent here. What's going on? And he said, you know what? Looking through your records, it looked like the only thing you're missing is to go back on deployment. Because at that time, Sergeant Majors were taking a hard look at people that wasn't pulling their weight or going on deployment to go through some hardships. They're like, hey, we're not going to allow these guys to keep skating out or going on deployments. And I said, well, that's not me. He says, yeah, you haven't been for a little while, though. Mm-hmm. I said, who's leaving tomorrow? That's what I told him. And so he told me, what? Okay, I'll find out who's leaving. Okay. And he got rid of Sergeant Major, and their unit was going to be leaving like in a month. And he said, I'm going to set up a meeting with you. And set up a meeting, talk. I said, yes, I'd love to come to your battalion. He said, you know what, we got a job for you, no problem. We got a position for you. So I called my wife and told her I was leaving on deployment, because I was supposed to be at the School of Infantry. and ride out my career at the School of Infantry. And she said, we don't need that. I said, but I need that. I got passed over twice. That is unacceptable. And so I went, and while I was on deployment, like my third, fourth month, got promoted to gunner sergeant over there.
Wow, congratulations. Congratulations.
So that worked out. But I could have, at the time, though, they were promoting infantry gunnery sergeants to master sergeant, which meant you wasn't going to be in the infantry anymore. Now you're going to be with these support units. I wasn't looking forward to that. And everyone that was in the support units as gunnery sergeants got promoted to first sergeants, and they would come over to infantry. We didn't like that because they didn't understand our life. They didn't understand all the inner workings of how things are, and the unwritten rules and everything. They didn't understand, and a lot of them, they bungled it. When you bungle things like that, we can see you bungling it. We know you don't know what you're doing, We know you're trying to feel your way through, and then you'll say stuff like in front of the unit, well, when I was with the wing, and we're all like, oh, So that kind of transition, I understood why they were doing it, because they wanted you to know both sides, because you're moving up now in higher levels here. So they want to make sure you understand both sides, but there was a little bit of price to pay there, for everybody below you.
Different cultures.
Yeah, it was really something. Culture shock. It was
culture.
Culture shock. Yes, have that happen, But other than that, it worked out pretty good. The Marine Corps, their Marine Corps bulletins were very informative, and they stood by it. There was no, okay, well, we don't have to do it. Everybody was treated fair, and if we all were in the whole barrel together, we were all what we call equally worthless. So everything was good. As long as everyone's equally worthless, everyone's great, So everyone had to abide by those bulletins and everything. Everybody had to follow the rules and regs. That's what I liked the most about the Corps. They didn't play.
Well, Mr. Narcisse, thank you for taking the time for this interview, sharing your story, being part of this Veterans History Oral Project, and above all, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you. I appreciate the interview.
This completes our interview.